Hello and welcome to Visibility with Purpose. My name is Sigrid de Kast. I'm a global online networking and visibility strategist.
Hello, and I'm Lanier Johnston. I'm an executive visibility specialist. Each week, the two of us explore what it actually takes for senior professionals to become visible, recognized, and trusted online.
Well, today we're going to talk about, are you building visibility or just being seen? Lanier, what do you think?
Oh, look, I absolutely love this one. I think this is a really good question because, as we know right now, visibility, particularly on LinkedIn, is at an historic low. So the idea of building visibility, I think, has probably changed from what we originally talked about or we originally understood it to mean when we first became involved with LinkedIn, Sigrid, all those years ago, because then it was about putting out content and being visible and getting people to respond to it. And now we're not getting that response from our content. I think we need to look at this entirely differently because it's not all about content anymore. And I bet you're thinking the same thing.
Look, it is very different. It's a very different landscape, if we want to use that term for it. And it always evolves. We're not at the final point. We never will be at a final point. And building visibility, I would say even, Lanier, it depends on how we interpret what that actually means. We are, in my thinking, building visibility consistently and constantly being in business. We're being visible right now, right here. You and I are visible on LinkedIn in many different ways. We're also visible just stepping into a shopping center. I always like to point that one out as well, because as people, but also very much so as business owners, we are constantly being visible when we step outside of our door, don't you think?
I do indeed. And now that visibility has gone one step further when you take into account AI. And for that, of course, we're talking about discoverability, which seems to be one of the new words that is constantly associated with it. And so what that really means is when you are on LinkedIn, when you are making sure that your profile is up to date, when you're putting out content, you're publishing a newsletter, even when you are sending direct messages to people, you are being discoverable by AI. And a lot of people haven't yet understood, or really, I guess, understood clearly the ramifications of the fact that LinkedIn is one of the most cited sources of answers to business questions that people ask AI. So anything and everything that you are doing on LinkedIn can be and might often be picked up by AI. So that's a whole different way of looking at visibility too, that we haven't even seen before this year.
Absolutely. And you've just really touched on a core point here, because in a way we could use, are you building visibility and discoverability? Because they are, both there now. And we have to consider that to be visible, we also are going to or want to be discovered by the AI, of course. And look, we are being seen. How do we interpret being seen? We are being seen by who, and how can we increase that into visibility? Does it mean that we have to put different content out there? Does it mean we have to take new different actions on LinkedIn to build visibility and not just being seen? How would you interpret that from your perspective?
I would see that as a positioning question, Sigrid, in the sense that we are all looking for different audiences to do businesses with different kinds of people. We're looking for different kinds of opportunities. So how we position ourselves to be visible for those opportunities, I think depends on each of us and our goals online and specifically on LinkedIn. So someone who is looking for a new role, for example, will position themselves very differently to somebody who is a business owner and is looking for business opportunities. So that positioning, I think, is a very important part of visibility, because there is no point in putting a lot of time and effort into creating content that's going to be seen by the wrong audience. And now that we are seeing AI involved, and AI is involved from a LinkedIn perspective as well, in terms of the fact it's underpinning the algorithm as we have always understood it, then that positioning is even more important to get right, because LinkedIn is only going to send our content to people it believes who are our real audience. And so they're not going to send it just to anybody and everybody. I think those days are well gone. So making sure that we're positioning ourselves in our profiles to reach the right audience, I think, is extremely important now. And of course, that builds trust, doesn't it, when you can do that?
Absolutely. So I guess building visibility, coming back to that terminology, for us is definitely about creating that trust. We want to build the trust with it while we're doing that, and we need to look at it in different ways. I like that you've pointed out about how we now have to consider, who is AI going to show our content to? Are we being clear enough in who we want to work with, or who we have the best offer for in terms of what we have in expertise to share with the right audience? So building a visibility for ourselves to be on LinkedIn, seen and picked up by AI, of course, means that networking, from my perspective, of course, is one of the things, and I think we've talked about in a previous episode, there are different ways of thinking what networking is and how to network on LinkedIn. That's a different topic that we've been in before. When I talk about networking, I refer to the live networking, being live together with others, networking in that way. And to me, building visibility, that is one part of it, because you are visible on LinkedIn in the networking, how I conduct that, and you stay visible. So you are doing it once and you stay there because it goes into a live event, which I think is great. LinkedIn still giving us that opportunity so we can continue to build visibility that way, and not just being seen in the feed and people keep scrolling on it. And the more often you're being visible, being seen, they kind of go together in a way, don't they? The more we can build that trust. Oh, I know that person. I've seen that person before. Let me go and check out what they said last time. That's how I look at it. And I think it is exactly what you've just shared in a different way about positioning, Linnea. Would you agree with that?
I would indeed. And I think this moves very nicely into my next point, Sigrid, which is about the visibility building authority. Because if you're just being seen, as you've just mentioned, and people aren't taking any more action, which is really how I would describe being seen, then you're not building that authority. But when you are building visibility through your content, through the way you reach out to people, through your profile itself and any other actions that you take on LinkedIn, like engagement, then you are building authority. But you can't build authority if your positioning isn't correct. And so I think that what happens with LinkedIn, it's a series of building blocks, and you have to get the basics right first. first. And obviously that's getting your profile complete and reaching the right audience. Once you've got that right, then you can start positioning yourself through your content and then building authority on the back of that. And it's the authority, I think, Sigrid, that means you're going to be picked up and discovered by AI. So in actual fact, we've got a circle going on here, really. If we're wanting to build our visibility, we've got a whole bunch of things that are going on. And of course, as you've just said, the networking side of it is extremely important as well. And I do think from there, though, that it becomes a repetitive thing. And we can't just do it once and forget about it. Being on LinkedIn is something we have to do again and again and again over time, showing up daily, showing up weekly, and of course, month after month. And I think that is probably where we are going to get the biggest visibility, is in that commitment to being online on LinkedIn on a regular basis.
Now, I'm going to throw something in here, a little bit controversial perhaps, and I'm going to go down this path with you here. Just being seen. If I was to interpret that in regards to I do what LinkedIn seems to want us to do, which is comment, then I'm being seen. I'm a commenter. People can see that I've commented somewhere. Do you think that is powerful enough or a powerful way to build visibility? Or would you always associate content of our own with building visibility, particularly in light of what you just mentioned, authority? Because we are the authority in our field. We just need to position that also outside. So is being seen, and if we put that onto the path of commenting, which, you know, we're encouraged to do more of now, does that all fit together, or is this somehow not making any sense really to you?
No, it's making complete sense to me, because engagement is the strategy of 2026 in terms of visibility. And LinkedIn has given us features that allow us to see how visible our content, our engagement on people's posts actually are. So a lot of people have been talking about this as being something that does build relationships, which of course comes back to the visibility side of it. But again, as I've just said, you've got to do it on a regular basis so that people get to know your name, which is something that you've already pointed out. They can see you there time after time. But the one thing that I would really like to emphasize, I think, is the difference between visibility and being seen. So to me, just being seen might be an example, would be a viral post that gets a lot of views, for example, but it doesn't result in anybody getting in touch with you. It doesn't result in any meaningful engagement on the post. And in fact, the post itself really doesn't carry a lot of weight. It's not very useful or doesn't add value. Whereas if you are putting out content that does add value, and it shares your experience, your opinions, and offers new ideas, tips maybe, then that is what I think does build visibility, because people then see you as the authority in that particular area. But if you are just constantly putting out clickbait type posts, that is being seen, but it is not building visibility. That's my take on this one anyway.
And I agree with you, because it definitely does not build authority in my thinking when you put out clickbait type post content. You know, you can ask for people to contact you or to DM you for certain things and certain circumstances on content. I would certainly say that, and I do that. But I think it is important to recognize the difference between, click here and say this word or comment with this word, which usually means, not always, but usually that you then have to leave your details and you get then snowed under with with lots of emails once you've done that one. So yes, I totally agree. That is more being seen. You're out there, you're active, but you're not really building visibility in a consistent, strategic way, particularly. And for me, this is where the networking, of course, the networking being in a visible online room, so to speak, is really important to build that visibility together with the authority, showing who you are. And, for me, as you know, important in the networking is, of course, you have your introduction. You keep it so in such a way that people can straight away understand who you are. So that is already all. You are the authority in this area, rather than mentioning 5, 6, 7 different things that the person does in a networking introduction, for example. You're building the visibility on a specific area that you are the expert, the authority on. I find that is very important and really helps also to position who you are when you are on those live networking opportunities. From your perspective, particularly senior leaders, is there a way you recommend or you work with that they need to be building their visibility, Linnea, or is it just a whole range of different points and things that they need to consider?
I think they need to start with their profile. I think everybody, Sigrid, needs to start with their profile. And senior leaders, this is something that lets them down a lot. Many people will have set up a LinkedIn account and just put it aside and forgotten about it and not updated it over a period of time. And so suddenly there's an urgent need to get it up to speed. And that's quite difficult to do, because over time your profile needs to expand to cover the things that you have achieved, your milestones, if you like. And it can be a little difficult, I think, if you are trying to remember the milestones along the way when it's been 10 years since you looked at your LinkedIn profile. So for senior leaders, it absolutely has to start there. And I do think that from there, it's about really what they feel comfortable with. Some senior leaders do not want to be creating content, but now we've got collaborative posts. I think that is an excuse that no longer holds as much water as it used to. So I do think that there are different ways for senior leaders to be visible on LinkedIn, but it absolutely has to start with getting their profile up to a really good quality that represents who they are now and is a really good showcase for their organization.
And I totally agree with you. Now, the collaborative post is something for another session, I think, because there's a lot to talk about that one. But when we are staying with building visibility and not just being seen, I think it is important, as you keep pointing out, the profile. And the key there, as I understand it, is definitely to be specific. You want to be known for something, and you want AI to be able to pick up on that something. So using a range of things, or not having that particularly on the profile, the headline not aligned with the about section, for example, where you might have something from 5 or 10 years ago listed at the top rather than at the bottom, or not at all, is really important for everyone, senior leaders and others, of course, who want to do business on LinkedIn. And let's face it, most of those who are in business are on LinkedIn to do business. We are not there just to be seen. We are there to building a visibility so that we can create connections, and with that, business opportunities, clients, or other business opportunities for each other. So if we summarize that, Linnea, on your side of the summary, how would you do that for this particular topic discussion today?
I would make it quite clear that there is a difference between being seen and being visible. And once you understand what that is, that then can help you decide what you are going to do on LinkedIn. It helps you to understand how you are going to achieve your goals and what would be important and what is less important now, and where to best put your time. Because I think this is something that a lot of people don't understand, the difference between being seen and being visible. And I think we've covered that very well today, Sigrid.
Excellent. Thanks, Linnea, for that. I think that's pretty clear. And I think what I might consider leaving our viewers with is that at any point in time, do put your insights below this video. We will come and check out and give our side to it, or give our answers if it is a question that you might have to the content that we are discussing here, the topic that we have for you. So that is really the topic and comment what we have discussed today. Are you building visibility, or are you just being seen? There is a big difference. Linnea just went into detail on that. Let me share what we are going to talk about next week. Another exciting topic. Why doesn't more content create more trust? Linnea, what do you think? Until next time.
Until next time, I think that's going to be a great topic. And so please do use the links in the description below to connect with us on LinkedIn if we're not already connected, and to find out more about how we can help you become more visible online.
Until next time, be visible, be valuable, be remembered.